السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome to Health Matters, a comprehensive chat with the Islamic Medical Association. I am Dr. Shoayb Wadee. Today my guest is Dr. Riyaz Fadal, and we will be discussing issues around Hajj, some of the health challenges and some of the preparations and advice that we may be able to give people regarding Hajj. As is usual, I'm just going to have a small tarbiyah and a discussion around some of the issues around Hajj. We're here to discuss the medical aspects of Hajj, but what are the benefits of Hajj? Why do we perform Hajj? As we know, Hajj is fard on those who are able to perform it, both from a financial perspective and a physical perspective, and it has immense benefits. Rasulullah ﷺ is reported to have said that the reward for Hajj, a properly performed Hajj, is nothing less than paradise. And we can see that this is a form of worship which may define our ability to reach paradise. This is a form of worship which has many challenges, but which may have immense rewards from a spiritual perspective, as well as from an ongoing perspective in our life, in this world and in the year after. Some of the other benefits of Hajj, we know that Hajj brings one spiritually closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. During that period, we are so focused. We are so focused on our purpose. We are so focused on performing the physical requirements of Hajj. We are so focused on honing our minds towards the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it elevates us to another plane. And for many people, they are able to take something back when they return home. They are able to retain at least some benefit of being on another plane, maintain a spiritually higher plane when they get back. There are many stories of people who were changed completely by the experience of Hajj, both immediately when they came back and for many years thereafter. So these are just some of the benefits of Hajj. Obviously, Hajj has got many challenges, some of them very physical and some of them related to health, and that's what we're here to discuss today. So let me introduce my guest. Our guest today is Dr. Riyaz Fadal. Dr. Riyaz is an experienced general practitioner with a specialization in sports medicine, but he has been part of the SAHUC Hajj mission for many years consecutively, and has got many interesting stories to tell and some interesting insight and advice that he can give us around some of the challenges which Hajis face around Hajj. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Riyaz, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam. Jazakallah for the introduction and for the opportunity to speak to your guest today.
Okay, we're going to get straight into it, Riyaz. You've been on Hajj for the mission many times, and just let's start from the beginning. Say somebody is contemplating that they want to perform Hajj. They have fulfilled the requirements, they have the financial means to do so. What preparation should they be making before they go from a physical and health perspective?
That's a very good question, Shoaib. I think all people, especially South Africans, when we apply for the Hajj visa accreditation, once we get through that traumatic process of getting a SAHUC accreditation,
takes some time.
It takes some time. You have to recover from that. Have some psychological counseling.
Do you know what's the waiting period at this time, area?
Look, it's up to 2 to 3 years.
So many people who may be listening to us, of course some of the Hajis have left already, but many people who are listening to us may be in that process of waiting for accreditation.
I think most people already have been accredited, and all the Hajis that should be that are going to be performing that are going to be performing Hajj this year are leaving already. Okay. There should be flights for the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
With regards to preparation for Hajj, I think, as you mentioned earlier on, that Hajj is a spiritual journey, and the preparation has to be obviously from a spiritual perspective, a physical perspective, and an emotional perspective. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity for most people.
Sure.
And we have to firstly thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that opportunity to perform Hajj, especially if you're financially capable of doing it, but also physically capable of doing it. We hear of many incidences where people can't perform Hajj because of the physical limitations.
Sure.
And they look down on it. But Allah Ta'ala is merciful, and Allah Ta'ala will give us the reward for that Hajj, irrespective of our condition.
Inshallah.
I think if we just talk through the physical preparation of Hajj, importantly, Hajj it's a strenuous journey, and in the months that we now facing Hajj, it's really the summer months in Saudi Arabia, and the heat, the temperatures are in excess of 40 degrees. You have the humidity factor, which is at least between 50 and 80 degrees. So
even in the desert there.
Even in the desert.
It's quite close to the coast there, so maybe
exactly.
That's why. Yeah.
But yes, but that effectively increases the temperature to about 43 to 45 degrees.
Sure.
Most South Africans are privileged. We have cars. We're
not used to.
We're not used to exerting ourselves. We're not used to walking 5 kilometers or 3 kilometers or even 100 meters.
Yeah.
So the physical preparation really is to get our bodies ready for this journey.
I mean, obviously, that's not the purpose. You don't go to Hajj to get fit, but I think if you're not physically prepared, it's going to impair your ability to get a full spiritual benefit. You
That's
may
right.
not be. For example, if you're performing some of your ibadat and you have pain, or you're short of breath, or you're tired, you may not be able to get the full spiritual benefit. So it's important to be prepared so that you can do that. You know.
I think if the spiritual weakness will culminate into an emotional issue, but also into a physical manifestation of a disease.
Right.
Most Hujjaj, even ourselves, when we went for Hajj, we'd succumb to a flu, or to tiredness, or to fatigue, because we have to exert ourselves spiritually more than we have done in a normal time. So the most important thing in preparing ourselves, one is to start, increasing our ibadat, our dhikr, our salah, also reflection, Quran tilawat. That's important from a spiritual perspective.
I mean, in a way, it's a lot like Ramadan,
Exactly.
but without the fasting. Although some people do fast during some of the periods when they are there. But I mean, the other aspect of it is that there's not only a spiritual challenge, but there's a geographical challenge. You're in a different area.
That's
you're not used to it. You're not staying in your comfort zone. You're not at home.
For a large segment of the Hajjis, it's their first journey out of South Africa. It's the first time on an aeroplane. Some Hujjaj don't even know what an escalator is.
Okay.
So you'd come to Mecca and you'd come to the Haram Sharif, and there's escalators, and you'd find the Hujjaj standing there, not very anxious, not knowing how to get onto that escalator.
Sure. Particularly from some of the poorer countries in the world. Yeah.
So the advice that we give from a physical preparation is to say to Hajjis, look, start walking, start getting used to exerting yourself. Physical fitness is an aspect of three things. One is strength, the other is stamina, and the other is stretching. So we say to Hajjis simply, just start walking, try to walk 1 to 2 kilometers a day.
Right.
Try to get some stretching involved, get your muscles subtle, get good shoes, wear good clothing.
Right.
Simple advice as that. And make sure you're well hydrated.
How long, I mean, as you say, people are waiting for quite a long time to get accreditation, but they usually receive notice that they've been accredited some months before, am I correct?
That's it. And some people have received accreditation in the last few weeks.
Okay.
So,
but I mean, the majority of people will have a few months to prepare.
They would.
Okay.
But I know I think we have about 3 to 4 weeks before Hajj.
Okay.
And so it's not we still have sufficient time to climatize.
Okay.
Hujjaj that leave now, when you get to the Holy Kingdom, start walking. We have Hajjis that do excessive walking. They want to do 10 tawafs in midday.
Sure.
So that's not the idea.
So you need a bit of moderation and a bit of common sense there as well.
That's it. Just start walking every day, getting your body used to walking, getting your body climatized to the heat.
Right.
Something that's important that I think we need to discuss today as well is most of us, our Hujjaj, are in good, luxurious hotels.
Right.
And they've got access to air conditioners. This is the worst thing. If you sit in a hotel with air conditioners and then you have to go on the 5 days of Hajj, your body won't be able to tolerate the heat.
Okay. So you need to spend some time outside.
We actually advise the Hujjaj to switch off the air conditioners. I know it's tough, it's torture, but for the first 2 days, your body then starts to get used to the heat. And during the 5 days of Hajj, when you're now exposed to all the elements and the sun, you're more likely to tolerate the heat.
Okay, so it's a process of gradual acclimatization. Maybe at the beginning, switch it off half the time and then as time goes on over the next week or so, try and get used to having it off.
That's right. Physiologically, we know that you need at least 2 weeks, 14 days to climatize.
Right.
Whether you're doing altitude climatization or whether you're doing heat climatization.
Right. So you need to take that into account. So I mean, it's difficult obviously if you're going to go last minute, but there are very few Hajjis who do that. Most Hajjis are there at least a month before. Before you leave South Africa, say you have a fair notice that you're going. You've done a bit of exercise. You've done a bit of stretching. What other preparations should you make from a health and physical perspective?
Okay, so there's general preparation and there's specific preparation. From a general preparation perspective, if you're a traveler, please make sure that you've prepared for your journey. So you've got travel insurance. You need to speak to your ulama ikram to find out if that's permissible.
The necessary vaccination,
and
all that stuff.
As well as inform your medical aid that you'll be out of the country in the event that you need to use it.
Okay.
With regards to vaccinations, yellow fever and meningitis is mandatory.
Okay.
But we also advocate that you take the flu vaccine, even though it's late now. We know that the flu vaccine has got the swine flu component as well.
And they just maybe starting to get into their flu season on that side.
Exactly. We also advocate hepatitis A and typhoid.
Okay. Hepatitis A obviously is a water and foodborne disease, so many people may get it, and you may be exposed to a population of people which have a high prevalence of hepatitis A, so there's a risk of getting that.
And we should also be aware that because it's a summer month, and one of the largest, one of the most the highest prevalence disease that we're treating is gastroenteritis.
Okay.
And it's usually diarrhea. Food poisoning, diarrhea, and it's a lot of the time it's from chicken that's been pre-cooked and left out.
Okay. And the heat there obviously makes it go off.
Exactly.
Now, obviously there's general preparations, and then you may need specific preparations depending on whether you've got any medical conditions or problems.
You and I have, we've got some history with managing complicated patients. If you have a chronic illness and you're taking medication, please make sure that you're traveling with sufficient medication. Also ensure that you have a script with all your medicines listed on there in the event that you need a refill or a top-up.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, sometimes the airlines will, give you a problem, or you may have a problem getting through customs and immigration if you're carrying some medications which are not clearly labeled and for which you don't have a script.
Yeah, and if you're unwell and you have a condition that's unstable, you're more than welcome to pop into the SAHUC medical clinics for a checkup.
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to how to access healthcare and what the possibilities are when you're there.
Yeah. So ensure that you're traveling with sufficient chronic medication and ensure that you have a script. If you require healthcare, hospitalized healthcare, dialysis, then you need to inform your agent and SAHUC Medical Mission so that we get you registered with the health facilities in the kingdom and that you can access your dialysis.
Yeah, I mean, dialysis is a really specific case because it is freely available for Hajis and people on pilgrimages in the kingdom, but you have to arrange it beforehand. So it is possible for people with dialysis, and dialysis obviously is a specific procedure which you need to undergo. And needs to be sort of fashioned around your travel. So both in Medina and in Mecca, it is available and accessible, but it needs to be arranged beforehand. And it's possible to do that, provided you make the arrangements.
The other specific preparation would be ladies, of course. A lot of ladies want to use oral contraceptives to manage their hair and to ensure that they don't have that they're not disturbed
during that period. Look, we're going to go on a short break, but inshallah we'll come back and discuss some more of this, Riyaz. So we'll go on a short break and come back inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Health Matters, a comprehensive chat. Thankfully my throat is a bit better and I can talk a bit better now. Riyaz was available to resuscitate me, alhamdulillah. We were discussing the issue of women trying to avoid the menses during those 5 days of Hajj and manipulating the menses using the oral contraceptive pill. What's your take on that, Riyaz, and how should women go about doing it?
Several years back, a few doctors from South Africa have conducted a study to try and understand the impact of this on ladies. They found, and from the study, the recommendations that came out from South Africa was that if you do want to manipulate your hair, then you should start with the oral contraceptive at least for 3 to 4 months before Hajj.
Okay, so you're used to the effects.
Exactly.
You know how to use it. You're not going to run into some unexpected roadblocks there.
Exactly, and as you can imagine that what the hormone does, it just regulates the level of estrogen in your body. But when you're stressed, when you have lack of sleep, when you're fatigued and you're not eating correctly, that automatically suppresses or burns your estrogen.
Sure.
So most women, instead of not getting a haid, will have a breakthrough haid.
Yes, okay. So they may have a bit of fundamental hormonal changes related to the stress of the period, which may actually cause some changes there. You know, the other thing I wanted to bring up was that people with chronic medical conditions, especially serious chronic medical conditions, may want to just consult their practitioner before they leave, maybe a week or two before they leave. Make sure their medicines are up to date, the script is up to date, that any changes which need to be done are done.
Yes. Look, we've got a very good primary healthcare service in South Africa. We found that our Hujjaj are able to access public sector primary healthcare clinics and get their medication and get medical assessments. But please see your general practitioner, do your health assessment, have a discussion with your general practitioner as to what's required during the Hajj period, what preparation is required, and also what modifications may be required to your medication.
Sure, before you leave.
I'm
going to open the lines, and if people want to call in with any questions or who need specific advice around things they may need to do during the Hajj, please feel free to call. Our number is 011 086 7700 or 7701, 7702 or 7703. Those numbers are appearing on the screen, and we welcome your calls. Riyaz, just to go back to healthcare services. So now, say you've arrived in Mecca or Medina, and something happens or you get sick. What are the processes you need to follow? What are the available healthcare services there, and how do you access them?
All right. So SAHUC have medical clinics established within Medina, Mecca and in Azizia, and also during the 5 days of Hajj, there will be medical personnel available to Hujjaj.
And that's in the areas where the Hujjaj are,
exactly.
Medina, Ravat, Muzdalifah, so forth.
Yes. The medical services are located in the catchment areas and are easily accessible to Hujjaj. Okay. But the most important thing is that if a Hujjaj requires medical care, the first person they need to check with is their agent. The agent will inform them. We've provided maps to the facilities. The agent will inform them and assist them to get access to the SAHUC clinics.
Is there any complaint which is too minor or too major?
Look, we want our Hajis to, if they have any anxiety, we want them to come to the clinics. Most of the time we are treating anxiety, we're treating fatigue, we're treating depression. The purpose of the SAHUC clinic is to be there to provide support to the Hujjaj, irrespective of whether it's only medical or if it's emotional or spiritual.
Okay. What are the common things you see? You mentioned some of them.
Yeah. Several years back, our clinics used to be inundated with respiratory tract infections, bronchitis, sinusitis. But we found over the last 2 years, especially with the change in the environment and the increasing heat, that less so we're seeing respiratory tract infections. That probably accounts for 30% of all presenting conditions. We're seeing a lot of heat stroke, urinary tract infections, dehydration, gastroenteritis.
And those are linked really to the heat and being dehydrated and so forth.
They are all linked. But we're also seeing quite a bit of musculoskeletal pains. We've had fractures, dislocations, muscle strains.
Okay. I mean, things will happen, obviously. And as I said, you're not in your usual comfortable environment. People are not used to doing the physical exertions that they may be doing when they're there. So I would expect muscular strains and those type of things. And also, I think part of the problem is the crowd. So if you're in a large crowd, sometimes, especially elderly people, may be prone to falls and may get injuries in that way.
That's exactly how it presents. I think it's important that the Hajis must realize that the services, the health services that are available to them for the Hajj period is comprehensive.
Right.
The Saudi kingdom invests considerably in providing health services, but maybe we can just spend a few minutes just talking about the type of health services available.
Okay.
So from a SAHUC perspective, there are primary healthcare clinics available. There's 5 registered nurses who are trained in primary healthcare, as well as 3 doctors who are primary healthcare physicians.
And these are part of the SAHUC mission?
And these are part of the SAHUC mission. In Medina and Mecca, you have the medical clinics set up in hotels.
Right.
as well as in Azizia.
And they're easy to get to.
And they're very easy to access. Right. In Medina, the clinic is in Safr al-Huda. Right. It's a hotel just behind the Hilton. It's actually a stone throw away from the Haram Sharif. Okay. In Mecca, it's a La Meridian, as well as it's walking distance from the Hilton, and you can see it from the Haram.
Okay, so that's Safr al-Huda in Medina, and
La
Meridian in Mecca. So any Hajis who are leaving may want to take note of those locations so that they know where the SAHUC clinic. But as you said, they can get that information from their agents. And this is every year. Is it in the same hotels every year, or does it move around?
Look, it changes depending on the negotiations and the cost of the hotels. That's right. There'll be a map in every hotel where a South African Hujjaj is. Okay. In the foyer, they'll be able to see them, find the map which clearly demonstrates where the clinics are.
Okay, and the clinics will have quite a lot of available care. But if there's something which the clinics cannot handle...
Right. So we cater for primary health care and advanced primary health care. We have an essential drug list. We take at least 100,000 Rand worth of medicines worth. Right. We take a broad range of medicines.
So that's where your SAHUC fees are going?
Exactly. 40% of the medicines are donated. Okay. And we'd like to thank maybe, if I may, Austral and PharmMed for their contributions and the discounted prices. But any services that we cannot provide, hospital-based services or emergency-based services, we would refer the Hujjaj to a hospital in the vicinity, and that's provided by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Okay. Well, I mean, two of the things which, just off the top of my head, which come up from Hujjaj who are returning, which often cause problems for me in my practice, and other doctors have mentioned the same, is the use of anti-inflammatories. So that means pain medication like the Voltarens, Brufens, Myprodols, those type of things, Crampas and so forth, obviously for aches and pains, which are very effective but may not always be appropriate.
Yeah, you use the word use. I would probably be, I'd say, less kind. I'd say the abuse of non-steroidals. We every year put a big sign up in the clinic and informing Hujjaj that using non-steroidal anti-inflammatories or abusing non-steroidals, especially when you're dehydrated, puts you at risk for kidney failure.
So let's just give them some of those names. Voltaren, Brufen,
Myprodol.
In general, I would stick to Panado, and if you need more than that, you probably need to go through to the clinic.
Yes.
To see, unless you've been using something for a long time, for like arthritis and so on, and it's been monitored and you're confident of that medication, I wouldn't try something new for the first time. Maybe just a Panado would be about the most I would do without going to the clinic. The second problem which I've seen is that Hajis are scared to use the toilet. I must be honest. It's not only Hajis, the elderly people in general, where the facilities are not what they used to, will tend to avoid using the toilet. So what they tend to do is they tend to self-restrict, especially water, so that they don't end up having to go to the toilet. When they're in the haram making ibadah, and their bladder capacity is not as big as younger people. They may not be able to manage with a full bladder, and they're thinking to themselves, I'm going to go to the haram, I'm going to be making Zohar, I want to stay there until Asr, I'm going to be making Asr, I want to stay there until Maghrib, I'd rather not drink anything. What do you say about that, Riyaz?
Look, I wanted to make a joke about this issue, but it's not a laughing matter.
Yeah.
It's a reality. Our Hujjaj don't want to drink water and they don't want to eat, and they go to extreme extent to not use a toilet. They would use Imodium to block themselves up.
Yeah.
It's the facilities that are provided are much more cleaner and better than they were 10 years ago.
Sure.
There's adequate facilities provided by the kingdom, and so what we would advise Hujjaj is, to get used to using facilities and to get used to making a bit of qurbani. It's not as downtrodden as it used to be.
Well, I think the other thing is that people should help each other. Sometimes elderly people, to use the Oriental or low toilets is a bit harder for them, and they may not manage on their own, and especially if there's somebody with them, they may be able to...
Look, the kingdom does make provision for high-paying toilets.
Okay.
But the reality is that if you mess with your body physiologically, if you don't drink water, you're going to get dehydrated. If you don't drink fluids, you're going to get heat exhaustion. And you may compromise yourself so much so that you won't be well enough to perform your Hajj.
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly had stories, and I've seen patients who've had that situation and just barely managed to perform the Hajj because of medical issues. So I think it's important to look after yourself. There are some other specific challenges, which have come up from time to time. people often develop athlete's foot or cracked feet and chapped feet from walking bare feet on the marble. You want to mention that, Riyaz, and what advice you have about
these
that?
are the unavoidable gifts that you get when you go for Hajj. With the kajur, you probably would also get the athlete's feet. But look, good hygiene, making sure that you wash your feet, dry your feet, and we advise our Hujjaj to wear socks, especially when you're walking in the haram, to take care of your feet. There's a good cream Brillo in a red tin that we advise Hajjis to use, or to use Vaseline.
Just to keep it lubricated and moist. I mean, in terms of water, obviously there's abundant Zamzam for people to drink, and it's available all over.
We do advocate people, that our Hujjaj drink Zamzam, but as well as juice that's diluted with water.
Okay.
You know, the
need
juice,
some electrolytes.
Exactly. When you're sweating, you're losing a lot of your sodium and your potassium. And if you just drink water, then you're diluting your sodium in your body further, and you get muscle cramps and weakness.
I mean, let's get back to diet there. This is another problem which I have picked up, is that obviously you're out of your comfort zone, you're not in control of your diet, so you're dependent on what the agent's bringing in for breakfast, lunch and supper. And obviously if you've got medical problems, it may be an issue. If you're on a salt-restricted diet, for example, salt-restricted food doesn't taste nice, so it's unlikely that your agent is going to provide you with salt-restricted food. Can you make arrangements before you leave?
Look,
is it possible?
One of the Moulana said to me, dal mak yo mal. The reality is that you're going to be traveling, you're going to be eating a lot of rice-based meals. But you need to adopt some good routine. You need to have cereal in the morning. You need to have sufficient fluids. There's lots of fruit available in the kingdom. You need to get your fiber. You need to have your apples, your bananas. And then you need to eat regularly and not too late at night. We find that sleep patterns are disrupted. Hujjaj are now eating at 11, 12 o'clock at night, where they usually eat at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes because you're there for such a long period, 4 to 6 weeks, it's quite easy for your entire sleep-wake cycle to be disrupted quite a lot. I'm going to remind the viewers about our numbers in case anybody wants to call in for some advice, and Dr. Fadal is available for us. The number is 011-086-7700, and it's on your screen. And we're going to go to another ad break, inshallah, and we'll come back with some more information, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. We've been discussing issues around preparing and performing Hajj, especially health issues. Riyaz, let's go to the 5 days. Let's go straight to the 5 days of Hajj. What are the challenges and what are the preparations and advice that you can give people who are during those 5 days?
Okay. So firstly, during the 5 days, SAHUC medical services are limited because of the regulations of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The Kingdom does provide primary healthcare clinics at all the facilities during the 5 days. So the SAHUC doctors and nurses will be available to support you and to assist Hujjaj with any of the issues, medical complaints, or to translate or to assist due to excess care in the primary healthcare facilities. But they do have limited medicines with them at the time.
So they're not allowed to take their whole clinic with them or set up a satellite clinic there? Okay. So you have to be aware of those limitations and obviously try and make sure your health is as good as possible going into those 5 days, that you prepared and you were there. But you should be prepared. I think most Hajjis will have been there for some time by that time.
Let's talk a little bit more about the preparation. Something that we've noticed in the last few years, that more females are donning a white or a light colored ihram rather than the black hot ihram.
It's cooler.
It's cooler. And they tend to tolerate heat better.
Okay.
So it's more popular, and we advocate this and advise this to all our Hujjaj.
So bear that in mind when you're packing.
That's right.
We've got a caller here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How can we help you, sister? Do you have a question for Dr. Fadal?
I've got one question. That you people said many people take Imodium to stop their stomach from working.
Yes.
I never did in my life a thing like that. Nor do I stop drinking Samsung. I don't bother for energy thing. Samsung has the wealth of energy. Samsung have Shifa. It's proven to me.
Yes.
And whenever I go, I only live on Samsung. All right, I eat my food. What's meant for me.
Yes.
But it's impossible that your bladder will be going out. My husband got a very weak bladder. He drinks Zamzam out of oil.
Yes.
And the heat absorbs it away. You don't need loo.
Yes.
You don't need loo to go to the toilet while you're in the haram.
Yes, because of the heat.
When we go for Ramzan, we sit from Asr to after Tarawih only. We go.
Yes. Yes.
Nothing happens to us.
Yes.
It's your imagination, it's your yaqeen that works miracles.
Yes. Riyaz?
Just like these people know that you don't need a loo in a hurry. There are loos in the haram too.
Yes.
You can go there and make wuzu again and go inside again.
Yes.
If you do need, if you've got a weak bladder.
Yes. I think the caller makes
and the toilets are very clean, but I've never been in there. I go to my hotel or toilet if I do have to go. But from the haram, I've never ran. I sit hours in the haram, but I won't go out.
That's good advice, sister, that you should continue drinking your water.
There's nothing to take protium and Imodium and whatever.
Yeah.
The stomach got to go. It should be, everything should be normal.
Yes.
Everything should be normal.
Yes.
And with Allah's karam,
Inshallah it will be.
I have never did exercise. Only once in 94, I was going with my sister again.
Yes.
That was my third trip. And she tells me, Hajra, you're very weak and slow. Why don't you walk with me? When your daughter used to walk with me, I said, Faida, you will be in the haram by the time and I come half a quarter away. And really, the first time I was a bit confused. Razina walked with me. And after that, I was really going on my own. And when I'm making tawaf, she'll pet me and we'll meet.
Alhamdulillah, sister. So Allah SWT has granted you with a strong body. And it sounds like you've got a strong mind as well. And I think you must have.
Allah Ta'ala in Huzur Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. When you go to Masjid al-Nabi, miracles take place with you if you love your beloved Mahbub Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Inshallah.
Ameen.
Nothing can take place wrong.
Ameen.
You must just have that, Jackie. Hajj, my last Hajj was tiring. My little nephew said to me, we've walked miles. I said, that's right. But Allah Ta'ala gives you so much takat and so much human. A person like me who's asthmatic, who's got many problems.
Yes.
But nothing happens.
Yeah, and we pray that nothing happens to any of the Hajis who are going this year as well.
They do get sick. I'm not saying no.
Yes.
They do get sick. So every individual's system is not the same. Every individual don't have yaqeen the same. You see.
So, sister, we're gonna have to move on. But Jazakallah for that advice and that call.
Then I think if they go for Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time with you. If you're in Medina Munawwara, our beloved Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is with us.
Yeah, I mean, sister.
For me, miracle takes place.
No, thanks for that call, sister.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to cut the sister off and move on now. Jazakallah for that advice. It's what we've been saying. I think people need to really take heed of what the sister said. You have to also have faith in yaqeen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will keep you healthy and well, make dua, but look after yourself as well.
Exactly. I think most Hujjaj, for a lot of the Hujjaj,
yes,
the Hajj is their first real spiritual awakening.
Yes.
I can just recollect my own experience being exposed to a modern environment, now suddenly being thrust into a Middle Eastern environment where Islam moves from a storybook to a reality, where you see the Kaaba for the first time, when you see the Maqaba Ibrahim, where you see Roza Mubarak, Islam becomes alive to you.
Right.
And it's it is a spiritual awakening. But the most important thing is, as the sister said, it's about your yaqeen and your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're the guest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as you know, if any guest comes to your house, anything that the guest requests, juice, cold drink, you make sure that you serve the guest.
Yeah.
And suddenly, when you come to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you have any problem, any condition, all you have to do is learn to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that will be fulfilled for you.
Inshallah. We have another call. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How can we help you, sister?
No, I just wanted to ask Dr. Fadal a question.
Please go ahead.
What is your question, sister?
Sister, can you hear us? Sister,
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Fadal.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, I can hear.
yes, switch off your TV, sister, and speak to us on the phone. It will be easier. Okay, can you switch off your TV, sister? Because I think you're listening on the phone. What's your question, sister?
Okay. Okay, can I speak now?
Yes, please.
No, I just wanted to say, Dr. Fadal, my nephew and his wife will be going for Hajj this year. And I hope they meet you, they have a problem.
Inshallah, I don't think Dr. Fadal is going this year, but there will be an able and capable team. They've already left. And inshallah, they will be available for any problems. Do you know, is the team already there, Riyaz?
Yes, may Allah Ta'ala accept the Hajj of all the Hujjaj, especially your family. The medical team, SAHUC medical team has already left. We have three doctors in the kingdom and 5 nurses and a practice manager. Unfortunately, this year I'm taking a break. I want to spend Eid with my kids. Haven't been with them since 2007.
Inshallah, Allah will accept your intention and you know the sacrifice that you've made all these years. And maybe inshallah you'll be available next year for Hajj again.
Inshallah.
We were still discussing the 5 days of Hajj. A lot of people want to do a walking Hajj. Riyaz, is it possible for everybody? Who should be doing it? What are the other alternatives?
In the last few years, we've met with thousands of Hujjaj, and we've always had this dilemma of whether walking Hajj is spiritually more beneficial than going by bus. And really, this is a dilemma that you need to tackle with the ulama ikram. You need to speak to your ulama, get spiritual advice as to what is advocated. But in our discussions with the ulama ikram, we have advised Hujjaj consistently that if you are unable to walk and you can't tolerate the heat, then it's best to utilize the buses. In the past, buses used to take up to 24 hours to transport Hujjaj, but the kingdom have improved their bus and their shuttle services. And you can get to Mina, to Arafat, and back within 10-20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a big problem then. I mean, I remember when I performed Hajj, there was quite a long wait for the bus to arrive, but I think it's improved quite substantially.
The other thing is that we've had patients that have walked just from Azizia to Mina and had gotten heat stroke, and then they're lying for the next 24 to 48 hours in their tents, requiring other Hujjaj to take care of them, requiring our care. And they don't get to perform ibadat, they don't get to appreciate those 5 days.
Yeah, I mean, the distance is not short. So between Mina and Arafat, I think the distance is about 7 or 8 kilometers.
It is.
So you need to really, especially in the heat, you need to be in a reasonable physical shape. It's warm even at night or in the evenings.
That's exactly correct. You think that you'd only get heat exhaustion in the daytime. You can get heat exhaustion at night.
Yeah.
It's quite warm. The Hujjaj are cramped in their tents. People get a bit angry, frustrated. There's a lot of anguish. There's emotional turmoil. So we always advise Hujjaj to have sabr, to be calm, to focus on the ibadat, to spend time with dhikr, Quran, tilawat, you know.
I think that's one of the problems we've seen many times with Hujjaj, that they do get frustrated. It's a time when you're away from home, your kids, your family, your comfort zone for a long time. It's a time when shaitan is going to be active in trying to test you because you are getting so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and shaitan really gets upset about that. And it's a time when he's going to really try and test you. Also, it may be a period where you may, I know for me it was the longest continuous time I spent with my wife, uninterrupted, since sort of the first few days, first few months when we got married, because it's really a time when you spend a lot of time together. So it can be a beneficial thing, but it can also be sometimes sometimes you need a bit of time apart.
Yes, a lot of our Hujjaj, the couples, especially the 4 or 5 weeks before the 5 days of Hajj, spend more time together, have to interact and converse more than they usually do, and have to then get better at conflict management. But during the 5 days of Hajj, I hope yourself as well were separated from the wife, otherwise you owe them.
Okay. We have another caller. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Muhammad van Wyk.
Yes, Muhammad. How can we help you?
I just want to know what's the difference between Umrah and Hajj.
Okay, Riyaz, you want to give some feedback on that?
Well,
Okay.
basically, and I'm not an alim, and Hafiz Shoayb will give you more advice.
Is this from a medical perspective or from what they actually are, brother?
Me?
No, I say it does. Is this from a medical perspective or just what the difference is between Hajj and Umrah?
Yeah, I just want
Yes.
to find out what is
So-
the
Okay.
difference between Hajj and
Okay.
Umrah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Umrah is a spiritual journey, and it can take place anytime during the year, and it's really when visiting the Haram Sharif
Yes.
that you need to undertake the spiritual journey, do your tawaf and your Safa and Marwa. Hajj happens only once a year, and it's specifically during the 5 days of Hajj, and is a very different spiritual journey. You have to traverse between, you have to don the ihram, make the niyat for Hajj, traverse between Azizia to Mina to Arafat, Muzdalifah and back.
They both have spiritual and physical elements which you have to fulfill. Umrah is not limited in time; you can perform it at any time. But the Hajj is limited to those 5 days, of the month of Dhul Hijjah, when you have to perform it. And Hajj is a compulsory act for every Muslim if it is possible for them to perform it. And there are certain conditions which make it possible. They have to be able to afford it financially, and they have to be able to physically perform it. And really, I mean, it's always surprised me that it's such a privilege to be able to have performed Hajj. If you think about all of South Africa at the moment, I think 2,000 Hajjis are allowed to go per year.
Yes.
So in 100 years, that means 200,000 people will be allowed to go, provided nobody returns the second time and everybody lives 100 years. That means maybe 10 to 20% of all Muslims in South Africa, that's just South Africa, will ever perform Hajj.
Yeah.
So the reality is that it's a real privilege to perform Hajj, and when you do go there, you are representing your entire community. You are representing all the people of your locality in the ummah of Muslimin in that location at that time. So that's what Hajj is, and Hajj is really a major event in the history. I mean, in the calendar of Muslims and in Islam. So, but it's got some challenges. So I hope that answers your question, Brother Muhammad.
Okay. So I think you said that Hajj, there is a specific time to perform Hajj.
Yes.
And Umrah, it means that any time I can decide to go there.
Except during the time of Hajj.
Okay. During the Hajj, I cannot go there for Umrah.
I don't think you can. Yeah, I think you can perform a Umrah provided you're not performing the Hajj at the same time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. So, I mean, Riyaz, obviously that's not a health-related question, but I mean, it just underlines the special nature of Hajj and why it's important to be prepared. It's something which the majority of people will do once in their lifetime.
Yeah.
There's a small amount of people who will be privileged enough and lucky enough to perform Hajj recurrently, like the sister who called us earlier. But really, if there's something which you're going to do once in your lifetime, which you are really a special beneficiary, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has invited you, and as I mentioned, less than 10%, probably if you work it out, less than 5% of all Muslims will ever have this opportunity.
Yeah.
You really want to be prepared. You really want to make sure that from every aspect, from a spiritual, from a physical aspect, you're prepared. From a spiritual aspect, you know all the du'as, you know all the responsibilities you have to perform, you know what to do when you get there.
But Shoayb, I think the most important thing is just to put your reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to stress, not to be anxious. Take it one step at a time. There are plenty of ulama ikram there. There are plenty of knowledgeable people
You're not
available.
on your own.
You're not alone. If you have a problem, your
There's
agent
a few
is
million
there.
others.
There's a few million
Everyone's
others.
going in the same direction.
Everyone's going in the same direction. You're not going to get lost. Ideally, you don't get lost.
I did get lost, but then I realized everyone's going in the same direction. And I think that's the beauty of Hajj. And that's one of the symbols around which Hajj is built, that we are all moving towards the same unity of purpose. And that unity of purpose revolves around Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think that Hajj is one of the ways, from a physical perspective, where it's best illustrated. So we've come to the end of our show. It was a little bit of a different show from our usual shows, and I'd just like to thank Riyaz, who's brought his wealth of experience and knowledge around Hajj to assist us. And I hope it has been a benefit to our viewers, and inshallah we will repeat it again in coming years around the time of Hajj. Is there any last parting words of advice that you would like to give, Riyaz, maybe for just a minute?
Yeah, I think Jazakallah for the opportunity, of course, to address the viewers. The most important thing is that you're the guest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as Hujjaj. And you have to turn your attention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and anything you need you will take from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But as Muslims we also tie our camels. So the preparation is important. Preparation should be from a spiritual perspective, from an emotional perspective, and from a physical perspective. We need to prepare our bodies. We need to make sure we don't put dhulam or push our bodies or strain our bodies unnecessarily. And really we need to just, they say the one word that you should know in Saudi Arabia is kiss. Because you need to keep it sweet and simple. You need to always kiss your wife. And then if you want a plastic container, a plastic packet for all your shopping, you ask for a kiss me.
Jazakallah khair. Thanks for that, Riyaz. I'll remember that. So, Jazakallah khair, and thanks for viewing. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.